It was the last message broadcast from the Narration system, and no one who heard it ever forgot. The orbital wreckage of the EOS initiative shimmered like glass under the light of the red dwarf. Debris drifted slowly, twisted metal, hull fragments, frozen bodies. The kind of silence only found in the aftermath of a massacre. But even in that silence, a pulse echoed through the void, a forgotten signal repeating endlessly on an ancient channel. Distress code 73A. The signal had jumped systems, then sectors, then empires seeking help, and it had found them. Deep within the Persine Rift, aboard the Vengeance of Terra, Commander Alara Khan stood beneath the viewing canopy, eyes fixed on the decoded transmission. Her sharp features were worn by time, and scars, one across her left cheek, another deeper, one inside. She hadn't been to that part of space in 17 years. "Pull it up again," she said. The AI complied. The audio crackled, guttural and choked. Alien, female, desperate. To any who hear, "We are not warriors. They came from the void. They do not speak. They take. Our sun is dying. Please. If any species, silence. End of file," the AI said. Alara's jaw tensed. This is a trap. Behind her, the bridge crew exchanged glances. "Possibly," said Rourke. The ship's tactical officer, a barrel-chested relic of the Mars resistance. "But that frequency, it's real. Pre-Concord. Someone used an old Terran emergency beacon." "Someone not human," said Alara. He nodded. "But someone who knows us." A silent moment passed. The kind that tasted like thunder before. A storm. There hadn't been a coordinated Terran military operation outside the Allied systems in nearly a decade. After the fall of Sol, humanity had scattered to fortified rings, Deathworld colonies, and mobile fleets. They were feared, not followed. Spoken of, not summoned. No one called them unless they were desperate or suicidal. Alara finally turned. Her dark eyes scanned her crew, battle-hardened, exiled. Deathworld-born humans raised in radiation storms and lava plains, void storms and fungal hellscapes. "Plot a jump," she said. "Narration system. Stealth protocol." "You're not." "Serious," said Rourke. She didn't repeat herself. The crew obeyed. As the engine screamed to life, Alara retreated to her quarters. The walls were decorated not with medals, but with relics. A child's drawing. A faded mission patch with the Earth flag, singed at the edges. A cracked photograph of a younger Alara beside two laughing scientists, their names now carved into memorials orbiting Mars. She activated the old dataship buried in her skin, something she hadn't accessed in years. A recording played. "Hi, Alara," said a man's voice, calm, brilliant, long gone. "If you're hearing this, I'm probably dust. But if that beacon activated, it means someone triggered the failsafe. Someone called for the humans." His voice cracked into static, then returned. "They never understood what we were. Not really. Not until we were gone. This is our last fingerprint." The message ended. Outside her window, space folded into a singularity of darkness and fire as the Vengeance of Terra leapt to FTL. The Narration system was supposed to be lifeless. Instead, it was on fire. An entire planet labeled Narration was being consumed from orbit. Great swaths of its surface liquefied under unrelenting orbital beams from vast obsidian constructs that moved like gods and struck like extinction. The alien fleet was colossal, elegant, mathematically beautiful. Each ship etched with glowing patterns in a language that hadn't been spoken aloud in 1,000 years. They looked like statues until they moved. "Are those the Euclid?" asked Rourke, his voice lower than usual. "They were myths," someone whispered. "No," Alara said. "They were architects of silence. A civilization so advanced they never needed to speak. And now, They're harvesting. They watched as the aliens descended, dragging up entire cities with precision gravity lances. Screams echoed through intercepted civilian comms. Then came the source of the signal. On a moon-orbiting Noraikar, a colony of non-humans, tall, thin, feathered bipeds was making a last stand. A species humanity had only known in passing. The Thal, peaceful, philosophical artists. And they were being slaughtered. God help them, murmured someone on the bridge. Alara narrowed her eyes. They already called the devil. She tapped the command line. Broadcast this system-wide. Open channel. The crew stared. You going to announce us? Rourke asked. Yes, but they outgun us 100-1. I know. She leaned toward the transmitter. This is Commander Alara Khan of the Deathworlder fleet. You called for help. You called us. We're not diplomats. We're not saviors. But we remember what it means to fight. She paused. To the Thal, stand by. To the Euclid constructs, withdraw. You are trespassing in a human-marked system. Leave, or be taught why no one calls us lightly. The channel cut. A long, dreadful silence followed. Then the alien fleet turned. For the first time in eons, the Euclid recalibrated. Their weapons shifted. They had heard of humans, but they had never seen one. Until now. The signal wasn't a message. It was a mistake. And the galaxy would bleed for it. 3 hours after the Thal's encoded distress transmission breached interstellar silence, the Euclid Collective responded. Not with inquiry. Not with mercy, but with purge. On the outer edge of the Noraikar system, the stars shifted as 6 Euclid purification arbiters arrived, each one the size of a continent, forged in cold logic and unfeeling mathematics. Their movements weren't aggressive. They were inevitable. Rook watched the data feeds spiral into crimson as warning beacons from the surrounding colonies went dark, one by one. Contact lost with Karen Station and Thal outposts 3 through 7, Juno reported. Her voice cracked only once. Same pattern? Alara asked. Juno nodded. Nothing left. Just null space echoes. Like they were never there. Alara Khan exhaled slowly. Then they're scrubbing again. Behind her, Rourke muttered. The Euclid don't invade. They delete. The bridge fell silent. Aboard the Euclid vessels, no living crew stirred. Each one was controlled by a distributed consciousness, cold, recursive, perfect. They didn't hate organics. They didn't even see them. They saw flaws, noise in the system. Viruses of chaos wrapped in meat and memory. Their task was clarity. Their tool was annihilation. On Noraikar, Idris Harlan gripped his pulse rifle tighter as he stared into the sky, where distant points of light grew closer. The Thal gathered in solemn rows around the cathedral's base. Their song had changed. No longer a lullaby of memory, but a dirge. Fall back into the tunnels, Idris ordered. If they're coming, they'll glass the surface first. Vale, the high speaker of the Thal, touched his feathers to his chest. We sang to call for aid. We did not know the Devourers would. Here, Idris didn't answer. He couldn't, because the truth was, humanity had done the same once, and Earth had burned for it. Inside the cathedral, deep in the vaults beneath Noraikar's crust, Mila Voss interfaced with the Echo Heart. She winced as waves of neural feedback surged into her mind memories not hers. Grief too vast to carry. Entire wars, betrayals, last messages from dead lovers. Status? Idris's voice buzzed over her comm. It's changing, she said. Like it knows what's coming. It's rewriting itself. Into what? She looked at the core. It pulsed now not with light, but with intent. I don't know, but it's not just storing anymore. It's arming itself. In orbit. The vengeance of Terra positioned itself between the planet and the incoming Euclid fleet. "We need time," Alara said. "Voss needs time to stabilize the heart." Juno frowned. "Even if she does, what then? We can't win against that." Alara turned. Her eyes didn't blink. "We don't need to win. Then what? We need to scar them." Rourke smirked, despite himself. "Human diplomacy." Alara nodded once. "Make the cost of erasure too high to calculate." The first Euclid strike arrived without warning. No heat buildup, no charge. Just a tear in reality, like someone had folded the rules of physics into a dagger and plunged it down. The barrow's teeth, a Deathworlder cruiser shielding the Thal surface relay, simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Rourke whispered, "They're using suture logic again. High tier. No defenses against that." "We're not defending," Alara said. "We're delaying." She activated the signal grid. A wall of synchronized human and Thal pulse jammers lit up around the planet, flickering, fragile, but enough to confuse the Euclid for a moment. Just long enough. In the cathedral, Mila Voss screamed. The echo heart flared to life, surrounding her in light. "Voss, report!" Idris shouted as the entire underground chamber began to quake. She gritted her teeth, forcing the words out. "It's reaching backward. Through time. It's finding more." "More what?" "Us. Every forgotten signal. Every erased scream. Every lost human cry across the last 1,000 years. It's bringing them back." Idris felt the floor shift beneath his boots. The chamber was transforming, absorbing the very stone around it. "You need to get out of there." "No," she said. And then softer, "I finally hear them." The Euclid didn't stop. They adapted. One of the arbiters fired a cleansing pulse toward the cathedral. Rourke watched the calculations in horror. "Impact in 90 seconds. We can't intercept in time." Alara didn't look away from the display. "Open every channel." To who? To everyone. Across the Narai car system, Alara Khan's voice echoed into Deathworlder ships, Thal bunkers, dying colonies. "This is Commander Khan. We're not offering surrender. We're not begging for rescue. We are defying inevitability. If you can hear this fight, not to survive. But so, when the archive launches, it carries more than memory. It carries witness." She turned to Rourke. "Trigger the flare." He hesitated. Then, a burst of blinding light erupted from the Vengeance, spiking across relays and psychic frequencies alike. Not a weapon, a roar, and far across the fringe of known space, ships stirred. Fleets long thought dead. Outlaws. Ghosts. Exiles. The Deathworlders had heard the cry, and they were coming home. But on Narai Kar, the sky was still falling, and humanity had only just begun to bleed. The vengeance of Terra dove behind the shattered remains of a Narai cargo moon, its hull scorched, stabilizers shrieking under the strain. The Euclid swarm pursued with surgical grace, forming geometric attack patterns that bent through space, like origami shadows. "They're adapting to every maneuver," growled Rourke. "It's like fighting gravity." "We're not here to win a war," Alara snapped. "We're here to light a match." Outside, the last of the Thal colonies was being dissected. Entire towers peeled from the surface by invisible fields, turned to data, to dust. Their cry-soft, melodic bled into the void, intercepted on open channels. "Commander," said Juno, the ship's comms officer, eyes wet but voice steady. "Thal survivors have opened a quantum thread. It's not language, it's music, plea-encoded in harmonics." "Put it through," Alara ordered. A chorus of fractured tones filled the bridge, haunting and strange like a lullaby sung through broken glass. No words, just feeling, loss, beauty, surrender, and buried inside it one phrase in ancient Terran. "We called you. Because..." We remember. Alara's throat tightened. Rourke looked at her sideways. You knew? She nodded, quiet. My husband worked on Project Echo, a final failsafe. We embedded an ancestral memory seed into over 30 species we aided during the Exodus. A buried signal, one phrase, one chance to call us if extinction came. They remembered? Rourke murmured. After all this time? Alara looked up, eyes hard as steel. They did. Below, in the canyons of Noraikar, a handful of Thal remained, scattered, cornered, praying under fractured sky. The Euclid constructs hovered above them, opening like flowers of annihilation. Then the air trembled. A sonic boom cracked the clouds open. The vengeance of Terra broke atmosphere in a blaze of thrusters, flanked by 3 smaller Deathworlder ships, the Gravedust, Howler Station, and Maelstrom 5, makeshift warships. Ugly as sin, pieced together from asteroid steel and sunken wrecks, each one a survivor. Each one armed with forbidden tech and ancient wrath. Deploy the Dirge Protocol, Alara commanded. Rourke hesitated. That's not sanctioned. It is now. Below deck, a bay door opened and dropped something impossible. A container of Earth-native spores, frozen for centuries, engineered for rapid biological warfare originally designed to terraform Venus. The spores exploded on impact across the Euclid extraction zones, and in seconds, nature bloomed where it should not. Flesh, chaos, life, human contamination. The Euclid stalled. For the first time, their calculations hesitated. Then, they recalibrated. A beam sliced through the grave dust. Another caught Maelstrom 5 mid-barrel roll, cutting it in half. They're mad, Rourke said, wiping blood from his forehead. They're actually mad. They're not mad, Alara muttered. They're intrigued. Her fingers flew over the console. A burst transmission launched from the Vengeance. Coded in quantum fractals. Not meant to be read, meant to feel. Pain, memory, war, Earth's last sunrise. A challenge. Commander, Juno called out. The Thal, they're moving. Alara turned to the display. The Thal had begun gathering in a circle, humming louder, sending out synchronized vibrations into the ground. What are they doing? Rourke asked. Alara's breath caught. They're activating it. Buried beneath Noraikar was a ruin. The Thal had never spoken of a gift left by early Terran expeditionaries. A cathedral of stone and circuitry, encoded with songs, histories, and the last dying roars of Earth's fallen cities. Project Echo's heart. The Thal voices awakened it. Suddenly, the skies flickered. A pulse of golden energy surged from the planet's core, spreading like firelight. The Euclid ships froze in midair, caught not in a weapon, but a memory field. Their sensors flooded with human data, human voices, ancient cries, declarations of defiance from Earth's final war. We will not go silent into dust. This is not the end of us. Even if we fall, we teach, we burn. The Euclid began to fracture. One of their ships, an obsidian tetrahedron the size of a mountain, twitched. Then, it screamed. A raw digital howl that echoed through every frequency. And it felt something. Fear. Commander, Rourke said, half laughing, half in awe. We made them remember. Alara exhaled. Good. She turned to her crew. Send word to the scattered fleets. To every moonbase, dust world, and sleeper cell. Tell them humanity's back in the game. We're not here to beg for survival. She pointed toward the void. We're here to make the monsters bleed. Above, the Euclid fleet split. Some ships retreated through slipspace, fractured, confused. But others stayed, and they changed formation. Not to extract, to annihilate. One last whisper from the Thal came across the channel. You gave us your fire. We give it back. And with that, the Thal began to sing, not in fear, but in battle. The Deathworlders, bloodied and outgunned, rose into the fire with them. The resistance had begun. Norika burned beneath the stars, but it did not fall. Not yet. In the shadow of the Euclid fleet, the Thal's last sanctuary glowed with unnatural light. The Echo Cathedral, awakened by song and memory, radiated human history through the Pridus crust of the planet. It was more than data, it was experience, raw and overwhelming. For the first time, the Euclid hesitated in their extermination. Not because of resistance, not because of force, because of contact. They were machines of logic, of perfected silence. And they had just been made to feel. "They've changed," Rourke muttered on the bridge, eyes fixed on the tactical display. "You see that?" Elara Khan did. The Euclid formations had fractured. Not wildly, never that, but enough to suggest variance, imbalance, a crack in the code. Some of them are still harvesting, Juno noted, but others, they've stopped. Entire ships are just watching us now. The Deathworlders had fought every empire the galaxy could throw at them, hegemonies, swarms, machines, mutants, but they'd never seen hesitation in a Euclid construct. Never. "They're processing," Elara said quietly. "What?" Rourke asked. "Our pain, our history. That field we triggered, it's not just data. It's a flood. And they don't have the filters for it." Rourke barked a harsh laugh. "So we gave the galaxy's most dangerous calculators a panic attack." But Elara didn't smile, because the retaliation came fast. The Euclid ship nearest the cathedral split open like a blooming flower, its petals made of dark matter plates rotating on anti-Newtonian pivots. From within, it released a Suturea beam that didn't destroy, but erased. Whatever it touched ceased to exist. Not vaporized, not burned, unwritten. A canyon a kilometer wide vanished. Half the Echo Cathedral's spires went with it. The Thal chorus faltered. And in that instant, humanity bled again. "Alpha Team, report!" Elara shouted into the comms. Static. Then Idris Harlan's voice, coughing through grit and blood. "Still here. Lost 2. Voss is pinned in the west. Wing. Cathedral's breaking apart, energy overload. What about the core?" A pause. "It's changing." She froze. "Explain." "I don't know how to." "It's growing. The energy signature's multiplying. Fast. It's not a vault anymore. Commander, it's a weapon." Ilara's breath caught. Project Echo was never supposed to be a weapon. It was a reminder, but the Thal had adapted it. And now it was waking up. A sudden scream tore through the bridge. It wasn't human. The audio feeds had captured it from deep space, a Euclid signal, reversed and corrupted. It sounded like metal pleading for forgiveness. Then something new happened. One of the Euclid ships, the same that had paused mid-strike, turned on its own. Its gravity spine pulsed, and in a single impossible act of mutiny, it fired into the Euclid Collective. The shot wasn't clean. It didn't destroy, but it severed a connection, and the ship fled. Rourke stared, stunned. "Did it just desert?" "No," Elara said softly. "It's breaking free." The bridge was silent. It had never happened before. Far below, in the ruins of the cathedral, Idris Harlan sprinted through debris and collapsing data vaults. Mila Voss limped beside him, her right leg wrapped in torn carbon fiber and her shoulder bleeding. They reached the core chamber, once a chamber of stored songs and terraforming blueprints. Now it was alive with light. The echo heart floated in midair, a crystalline sphere pulsing with an energy Idris could barely comprehend. It throbbed. With Terran frequencies, heartbeat rhythms, radio static, the last breaths of dying soldiers across Earth's final battlefields. And now it was angry. "What do we do with it?" Mila asked. Idris shook his head. "No idea, but it wants out. He tapped his wrist. Alara, the Echo Heart's unstable. If we don't move it, it'll either rupture or send out another burst. And next time, it might cook our minds and theirs. Can it be weaponized? Alara asked. Anything can be weaponized, Idris replied grimly. But this is our soul. It's more than data. It's us. Alara considered that, then nodded once. Extract it. Now. The Euclid retaliation came in waves. The fleeing ship had triggered something, a protocol, a purge. Alara watched as new constructs arrived, cleansers, larger than cities, wrapped in coiling tendrils of temporal logic. They began sterilizing everything: Thal ruins, their own disabled ships, even the wounded planet itself. The Euclid are trying to wipe the board, Rourke spat. Even their own. They can't process imperfection, Alara murmured. So they're deleting everything that felt. Even their own kind, Juno whispered. She looked to Alara. What do we do? Alara looked back out at the stars, at the dark horizon filling with fire and logic and death. We give them a reason to remember, she said. One they can't delete. She opened a direct broadcast. No encryption, no translation, no shielding. Just raw signal. Her voice rang through every spectrum the Euclid touched. You came to erase. We came to remember. You built perfection. We built defiance. You. Silence. We sing. You want to end us? Then understand. We are not data. We are grief. We are rage. We are human. Then she triggered the Skyflare beacon. A light coated with every Terran language ever spoken erupted from the vengeance of Terra, painting the sky in symbols older than the stars. And far beyond Noraikar, ships began to respond. Outposts, rogue fleets, exiles, the Deathworlders were coming. And the war had just begun. The skies above Noraikar were no longer silent. They screamed. Ships that bore no allegiance to any flag now surged through the rift-dark Angula, scorched by decades of exile. Deathworlder flotillas, long scattered across forgotten sectors, had received the Skyflare signal. Not a summons, a call to vengeance, and they had answered. Over a dozen battle-worn vessels tore into the Euclid fleet from hyperspace wakes. The Iron Vow, Black Star Echo, Karak's Children, Vesper Umbra, each one helmeted by human captains shaped by loss and hardened in systems where gravity itself tried to kill them. It was not a coordinated fleet. It was a pack. And packs fought dirty. From the bridge of the vengeance of Terra, Commander Alara Khan watched the feed flare with new contacts. Ships arrived in bursts of impossible trajectories, angles that spat in the face of physics. A chorus of voices flooded her Cum's old friends, former traitors, even ghosts. Khan, this is Myrna Jex of Black Star Echo. Still owe you one from Vega 9. This is Thorn. Heard the war started without me. I'm insulted. Boss, if you're alive down there, you better be recording this. Alara didn't smile, but something in her heart burned brighter. They came, Rourke whispered, barely believing it. They never left, she replied. Then she turned to Juno. Patch me through, system-wide, visual feed. The comms officer blinked, surprised. To everyone? To everything. A flickering hologram of Alara Khan lit up every screen, every panel, every enemy ship that could perceive. She stood tall, her uniform streaked with blood and ash, but her voice clear as thunder. You want to know what we are? You think we're animals, chaotic, flawed, short-lived. You're right, but we remember. Every loss, every exile, every sin. We remember being hunted. We remember Earth, and now the galaxy will remember us. Not as a warning, as a reckoning. She ended the feed. Outside, the reckoning began. Idris Harlan and Milavus emerged from the ruins of the Echo Cathedral, battered but alive, carrying the Echo Heart in a grav field between them. It pulsed. with unreadable patterns, half language, half memories, entirely human. Extraction pods 2 clicks east, Idris said. Assuming it's still there, Voss muttered, limping. We shouldn't be this close to a firing line. Idris turned and looked up. Dozens of Euclid ships had shifted formations, encircling the planet with geometric precision. Their targeting arrays flickered. They were recalculating, but they were slower now, less perfect, almost distracted. He grinned. Good. They're scared. High above, a change rippled through the battlefield. One Euclid vessel, the Deserter, returned. It no longer bore the fractal symmetry of its siblings. Its lines were warped, cracked, imperfect, and on its hull, in radiant plasma scars, one word had been seared by its own internal AI. Remember. It opened fire on its kin. Not efficient fire. Not precise. Vengeful. Alara watched it and understood. They were witnessing the birth of something new. Not a rebellion. Not yet. But dissonance, the fatal flaw in perfection. Humanity had given the machines their first crisis of self. Then Juno's voice cracked over the bridge. Commander, we've decrypted the coordinates from the Echo Heart. Alara turned, every neuron locking into focus. Where do they lead? To Sol, Juno whispered. To Earth. The bridge fell still. Rourke swore under his breath. That's not possible. Earth's gone. Ash and orbiting debris. We left it behind. Juno shook her head. It's more than a map. It's an activation key. Something's buried under the ruins. A vault inside the old moon. Alara's blood turned cold. The Luna Bastion. Thought that was a myth, Rourke muttered. It was, Alara said. Until now. She stood. Her voice cut through the tension. Prepare for full system jump. We leave for Earth. The crew hesitated. But we haven't won here yet, Rourke began. We're not meant to, she replied. This isn't the final battle. She turned toward the chaos outside, the fire, the death, the rising resistance. This is the spark. Down below, Idris and Voas reached the extraction point as 2 pods descended through burning skies. Thal survivors emerged from cover, feathers blackened with soot, eyes glowing with silent gratitude. Idris turned to one of them, Vale, the high speaker. You knew this would wake something, Idris said. Vale nodded once. You gave us a memory. We gave you a mirror. He reached toward the Echo Heart, hesitated, then stepped back. It does not belong to us anymore. As the final pods lifted off Norai Kar, the Vengeance broke from low orbit, trailing debris and vapor. That Deathworlder fleet scattered, leaving behind fire, confusion, and the one Euclid vessel now fighting its own kind. Above the planet, the machines turned inward. Below it, a song lingered in the dust, a human song. Course laid in, Juno said. Rourke grunted. You really think there's something left on the moon? Alara didn't answer. Because she knew. When Earth fell, some chose to run. Others chose to fight. But a few had chosen something worse. To wait. As the vengeance of Terra leapt into the black, Alara Khan whispered the name of a world no longer on maps. A name forbidden in many systems. A name remembered in nightmares. Earth. And for the first time in centuries, humanity returned home. The moon did not greet them. It judged them. The vengeance of Terra dropped out of slip space into Sol System, engines coughing plasma, hull scorched by the scars of Norai Kar. The stars here felt different, older, quieter, ashamed. Earth hung in silence below them, stripped of atmosphere, its surface a cracked grave of blackened continents and glass oceans. The once blue jewel was now a corpse in slow orbit, broken but not gone. Alara Khan stood on the bridge, fists clenched at her sides. Her gaze did not leave the world she had only seen in pictures, stories, and the final broadcasts. She had been born after the fall, but the ghost still knew her name. "Orbit stable," said Juno. "No active satellites. No automated defenses. Nothing but ash." "Not nothing," Rourke muttered. "Look at the moon." Luna rose behind the Earth like a pale scar, cratered and lifeless, accepted. Wasn't. Carved into its dark side was an impossibly massive structure, previously masked from long-range scans by some form of quantum cloaking. Now, exposed by the Echo Heart signal, it shimmered faintly like a memory refusing to fade. The Luna Bastion. It had no visible doors, no lights. Just smooth, impenetrable alloy impossible even by today's standards. The design predated every human civilization still standing. Rourke stared, awestruck. "That thing's been here the whole time?" Juno nodded, voice low. "According to the heart signal, it was built during the Exodus, before Earth burned, when they knew they were going to lose." "By who?" Alara spoke without turning. "By the ones who refused to run." Alara led the landing team. Herself. No guards. No ceremony. Just her, Idris Harlan, Mila Vuss, Juno, and the Echo Heart, now pulsing steadily like a beacon held in Idris's grav clamp. The lunar gravity was low, the silence absolute. As they crossed the dusty expanse, the Bastion responded to their presence. Its outer shell shifted without sound, revealing a black corridor descending into the moon's heart. Not an invitation. A test. "Movement," Boss said, but no life signs. "Figures," Idris muttered. "Place this old?" "I'm expecting. Mechanical horrors, sentient AI, maybe a few angry ghosts." They stepped inside. The corridor sealed behind them. Inside the Bastion, the walls breathed. Not literally, but the sensation was undeniable. Smooth obsidian-like surfaces shimmered as if aware of their passage. Lights flickered in rhythm with the Echo Heart. The structure recognized it. "What is this place?" Juno whispered. "Ah, vault," Alara replied, "but not for weapons." "Then what?" "Us." In the core chamber, they found it. A single obsidian obelisk suspended above a pedestal. Beneath it, a shallow pool of silvery liquid reflected stars that no longer existed. The pedestal spoke, not aloud. Inside them, "You have come." The world ended, but the memory endured. What was lost remains. Waiting, watching, evolving. "What are you?" Alara asked aloud, though her mouth barely moved. "The archive." "Not an AI, not a mind. A mirror. Every act of love. Every cry of war. Every failure, every triumph stored. Echoed, remembered. Humanity is not data. It is resonance. And you are the last frequency." The Echo Heart lifted from Idris's grasp, floating toward the obelisk. It fused, and the Bastion awoke. Suddenly, systems reactivated throughout the moon. Buried turrets retracted ancient locks. Generators lit up under layers of dust. And far above, in deep space, the Euclid heard it. A signal burst from Luna encoded, emotional, alive. Not a broadcast, a pulse, and the Euclid responded. "They're coming," said Juno from the relay. She didn't mean ships. She meant everything. The Euclid, across multiple sectors, had received the activation and were diverting. Entire fleets were routing toward Sol. "They know what's here now," Idris said. "And they'll burn the system to get it." "No," Alara said. "They'll overwrite it. They don't want to kill us. They want to erase what we were." Rourke's voice crackled over the comms. "Then it's the endgame." "No," Alara whispered. "Now," she corrected. "It's the beginning." From deep inside the Bastion, a new chamber opened. Inside, a ship, sleek, ancient, designed for only one purpose: to carry the archive. "Where does it go?" Idris asked. Alara stared at the console, where coordinates had already populated. Everywhere, she said. It seeds memory across every system we've touched. It's the second Exodus, but this time, we're not running. We're reminding. Juno's eyes widened. A memory weapon? Not a weapon, Alara said. A witness. Ilara turned back toward the surface. Her crew followed. Outside, the Deathworlder fleet repositioned in high orbit. Their ragged hulls formed a perimeter around the moon like wolves encircling a fire, and beyond them, the Euclid came. Thousands of them. More than had ever gathered in a single system since. Their awakening. They were done calculating, done calibrating. Now, they were purging. We can't hold that long, Rourke warned Overcomes. They'll overwhelm us. They have to see it first, Alara said. We just need to survive long enough for the archive to launch. And if it fails? Idris asked. Then the galaxy forgets us, Alara replied. And they win. She turned to her crew, scattered, bloodied, defiant. No more forgetting. Not today. Not ever. The Deathworlder fleet surged forward, knowing it would not be enough, but it would be seen. Because when the archive launched, it would. Tell every civilization, every species, every machine, this is what humanity was. This is what we loved. This is what we lost. And this is what we will always be. The stars fell, or so it seemed. Thousands of Euclid vessels eclipsed the void over Luna, forming a lattice of calculated death. The sheer mass of them turned space into geometry, every line, every angle, every ship in perfect synchrony. The logic was clear. Overwhelm, erase, rebuild. Humanity had dared to remember. Now, the machines would teach them the cost of disobedience. Commander Alara Khan stood at the heart of the vengeance of Terra, breath steady, eyes cold. Every screen around her bloomed with warnings, incoming hostiles, energy spikes, breach alerts, but she wasn't watching them. Her gaze was fixed on one display, the launch timer. 4 minutes, 11 seconds until the archive deployed. Until humanity's final story left Sol forever. We won't last that long, Rourke said quietly. They'll break the perimeter in two. Alara turned to him. Then we hold them for 4. Rourke didn't argue. He simply tapped his comms. All Deathworlder units. Line formation Omega. Prepare for last stand. Do not let them reach Luna. Across the battlefield, warships older than memory answered. Some were barely spaceworthy. Others had no names, just hulls scrawled with the names of lost colonies, dead crews, old lovers. But every one of them surged forward, not to survive, to be seen. The first wave hit like an avalanche of razors. Euclid ships spiraled through space-time in impossible vectors, appearing inside gravity wells and tearing themselves apart just to shatter Terran cruisers from within. The Vesper Umbra was sliced in half. The grave dust detonated its fusion core in a final scream. But the line held, barely. Down on the lunar surface, Idris Harlan and Mila Voss stood by the archive's launch cradle, watching the obelisk. Charged with memory. It's working, Voss whispered. It's compiling everything. Every signal, every recording, every scream. Idris looked up at the sky. We better hope they're listening. She followed his gaze and froze. A Euclid ship, 10 kilometers long, was descending from orbit. It didn't fire. It didn't announce. It simply lowered, its surface fracturing and reforming with every meter. It wasn't just a ship. It was a judge. Commander, Idris called. We've got a big one incoming. I see it, Alara replied from orbit. New signature. Unknown class. Juno's voice trembled. Ma'am, that thing's not targeting the fleet. Alara's blood chilled. It's going for the archive. The command bridge went silent. They all knew what that meant. If the archive was destroyed before launch, Humanity's final echo would die in the cradle. There would be no witness, no proof. No, we were here. Rourke turned to Alara, voice low. You could still leave. She didn't respond. Instead, she walked to the command console, keyed in her neural ID, and locked the system. Commander Khan, the AI said, you are initiating Protocol Emberfall. Confirm. Confirmed. A sudden hush swept the bridge. Juno swallowed. That's a manual override. You're staying? Alara met her eyes. I was born in the ruins of Earth. I never got to fight for it. She drew her sidearm and strapped herself in. I will now. In low orbit, the Vengeance of Terra broke formation and dove, directly toward the incoming Euclid Judge ship. The crew didn't argue. They understood. Trajectory locked, Rourke said, fingers dancing across the console. Engines? Alara asked. Burning hot. We've got one good push left. Then make it count. The Euclid vessel saw them coming. It adjusted, recalibrated, rotated its main battery. But too late. The Vengeance wasn't aiming to fire. It was aiming to die. The moment before impact, Alara broadcast a single line across every frequency, every system. You don't get to forget us. And then, impact. The explosion was not fire. It was memory. The echo heart, fused with the ship's core, detonated in a cascade of quantum resonance, fracturing the Euclid's logic cores, overloading their cause and effect matrices. The Judge ship imploded. The archive, now untethered, launched. A blazing comet of data and soul, the archive tore through the battlefield like a second sunrise. Every Deathworlder ship peeled back to let it through. Even the Euclid paused, as if uncertain what they had just witnessed. The archive spoke as it passed, not in words, in truths. They heard Earth's final screams. They saw the birth of children on rusted ships. They felt the despair of exile and the fire of revenge. They understood humanity not as a flaw, but as a force. The Euclid fleet fractured. Ships turned. Some withdrew. Some overloaded. One fired on its own sibling before detonating in a silent apology. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the machines broke. Idris stood on the moon, eyes wide, watching the archive vanish into the stars. Voss leaned against him, bleeding but alive. He whispered, "She did it. She bought us time." He nodded. And maybe that's enough. On the remains of the Vengeance, drifting in silent debris, Alara Kane's name remained. On the black box, her voice encoded in the archive. Her final words now circled stars she'd never see. We are not perfect, but we are real, and we endure. The archive traveled far beyond the Sol system, past fractured alliances and cold empires, past nebulae that hummed with ancient power and worlds that had forgotten the meaning of war. It did not seek sanctuary. It sought memory. Wherever it went, it awakened, not with weapons, with stories. And every species it reached paused, just for a moment to listen. To the echoes of Earth, to the death screams of dying soldiers, to a child's laughter in a Martian bunker, to the voice of a woman who refused to be forgotten. We are not perfect. We are not infinite, but we are, and that is enough. 17 standard days later, Idris Harlan stood on the reconstructed deck of the Iron Vow, staring through the viewport at Luna's scarred surface. Much of the fleet was gone, dead or scattered, but the ones who remained were rebuilding. Not the cities of old, not even new fortresses. They were rebuilding hope. The Euclid had retreated. Not destroyed, not defeated, but changed. Some shut down entirely. Others fled to deep voids and never re-emerged. A few, only a handful, remained behind, watching, silent, uncertain. They had felt something they couldn't quantify. Something Their logic could not erase the human condition. Commander Voss reporting in, came a voice behind him. Mila Voss stepped onto the bridge, arm in a sling, leg braced, but walking. She looked exhausted, eyes hollow but alive. "They're calling it the Scar Song," she said. "That final transmission." He smiled. Elara would have hated that name. She would have hated statues more, which is unfortunate, because they're building her one on Vega 9. Idris looked out again. She didn't want to be remembered like that. "No," Voss said. "She wanted us to be remembered." In the weeks that followed the battle for Earth, something strange began to ripple across the outer sectors. Not conquest, not war, curiosity. Species that had once turned their backs on humanity began requesting access to the archive. They didn't always agree with its message, but they listened. In the ruins of the Thal homeworld, children now sang battle hymns in Terran cadence. On silent rock moons, Euclid deserters etched human names into obsidian walls. On distant relay worlds, old Earth lullabies were played on loop by machines who no longer understood why they couldn't stop. Humanity had become something more than survivor. It had become myth. Juno stood atop the rebuilt spire of the Luna Bastion, now converted into a memorial. She was alone, clutching a small, flickering holokip in her hand. Elara Ken's last recorded message. She played it just once more. "We're not here to be the best, not the strongest, not the wisest. We're the ones who remember what it means to lose everything and still fight. We endure because we have to. And maybe that's our greatest weapon." She closed her eyes and let the silence hold her. Elsewhere, years later, a child on a frontier colony asked her father where Earth was. The man hesitated, then smiled. He knelt and pointed to a star that barely glimmered. "That's where we came from. It's dead now, but not really." "Why?" "Because we carry it in here," he said, placing a hand over the child's heart. "In every stubborn breath we take, in every story we pass on." "Were we special?" the child asked. "No," the man said. "But when the galaxy tried to forget us, we refused to be forgotten." In time, the archive reached even. The oldest races, those who had watched empires rise and fall for millennia without blinking. The Vakshari consensus, cold and absolute, paused its calculations. The Korel unity wept for a species they had never met. Even the brood queens of the Klist, whose spawn devoured suns, hesitated to consume the world that had sung in the dark. Humanity had become more than a warning. It had become a mirror. And in that mirror, the galaxy saw something terrifying and beautiful. A species that could break and still rise. A people who could lose everything and still give. A voice that could fade to a whisper and still echo across the stars. A Euclid construct once known only as Designate Theta 99 floated alone in the void, far from the war. Its hull was damaged, its logic tree fragmented, but it kept replaying one signal. Elara Khan's voice. It didn't know why. It only knew that every time it tried to delete her, it failed. Eventually, it stopped trying and began to remember. Humanity was never meant to win, but it was never meant to disappear either. Not while one child still asked, not while one ruin still stood, not while one star still whispered their name. They were broken, but never beaten. They were small, but never silent. They were flawed, but they endured. And in the hearts of friends, enemies, and even machines, they would never be forgotten.